Violinist is suing Will Smith, claiming retaliation after he alleges that he was fired for reporting harassment while on tour with Smith.
This year, I was hired to be a performer on a major tour with somebody who is huge in the industry. So I was excited, proud of myself for getting the opportunity. Unfortunately, some things happened, and I can't get into the details of exactly what that was because it's already a legal issue right now. But the reason why I'm speaking out about this is because getting fired or getting blamed or shamed or threatened or anything like that simply for reporting misconduct or safety threats at work is not okay. And I know that there's a lot of other people out there who have been afraid to speak up, and I understand. And if that's you, I see you. And that's pretty much.
For most of his career, Will Smith carried that rare, glossy kind of superstardom Hollywood loves to sell, the universally likable hitmaker-turned-movie icon who seemed almost immune to scandal. Lately, though, that once bulletproof image has started to look a lot more fragile, as lawsuits alleging misconduct and a steady drip of resurfaced personal moments have pushed his private life into the public conversation in a way it hasn't been before. The result is a growing feeling that the good guy brand he built over decades is now being tested from multiple angles at once, with fans and critics openly questioning what's real, what's been curated, and what might have been simmering behind the scenes all along. In the middle of that pressure, Will has publicly owned at least one major misstep, offering a remorseful reflection on his behavior and making it clear he doesn't believe he handled the moment the right way. He's tried to strike a careful balance in his wording, emphasizing regret while also pushing back against the idea that one mistake should define his entire identity. It's the kind of statement that sounds like a man trying to move forward without letting the narrative swallow him whole, even as the spotlight keeps circling back with renewed intensity.
To all of you, there is no part of me that thinks that was the right way to behave in that moment. I am deeply remorseful, and I'm trying to be remorseful without being ashamed of myself. I made a mistake, and I'm trying not to think of myself as a piece of shit.
When you're operating at Will Smith's level of fame, even choices that once seemed like quiet personal projects can later become headline magnets. That's exactly what happened with the move Will and Jada Pinkett Smith made in 2008 when they launched a private school in Calabasas called New Village Leadership Academy. It was marketed as a high-end, forward-thinking space for kids in their world, the kind of polished, progressive idea that didn't raise many eyebrows at first. Years later, however, former staff and observers began framing the school in a much more controversial light, claiming the curriculum drew from study technology, a learning system publicly linked to the Church of Scientology. Accounts circulated that some educators were expected to train at the Scientology Celebrity Center and that materials associated with L. Ron Hubbard were present on campus. The way former employees later described it, the school didn't feel like a fully independent institution so much as an environment carrying noticeable Scientology influence, at least in practice. By 2013, the academy shut down amid reports that parents were pulling their children out, and the story never fully stopped following the Smiths. From there, the conversation evolved into a bigger, more loaded question. Why risk attaching a carefully protected A-list image to something so widely debated? Online theories have repeatedly drifted toward the idea of leverage, often referencing Scientology's auditing process, where participants disclose deeply personal information while connected to an e-meter. Critics and former members have long alleged those sessions are documented and stored, which has fueled years of speculation. In that climate, Gene Deal made a public claim that the organization held compromising material involving Will Smith, including what he described as a secret tape, an allegation that remains unproven, but one that helped keep the rumors alive.
Just people that's being shopped around, a Diddy and another male. They say the other male is an A-list celebrity.
I would wonder if he's white or black. And if I'm looking at any black guys that are A-listers that's bigger than Diddy, it's only one that I could come up with. And there's a few I could come up with. Will Smith, he's bigger than Diddy.
None of those claims have been confirmed as fact, but they landed loudly enough to ignite waves of online debate, especially at a time when the public was already rechecking Will's personal life with a sharper lens. Alongside the Scientology-linked chatter, attention also drifted toward Will's long-running relationships, including his friendship with actor Dwayne Martin, a name that kept coming up in conversations about the people closest to him. Over the years, Dwayne was regularly spotted around Will, often appearing in the inner circle orbit despite never reaching the same mega-celebrity tier. To many, it read as a normal Hollywood friendship, loyal, familiar, long-standing. To others online, the closeness seemed unusually intense, sparking rumors that went far beyond what either man has publicly acknowledged. For a long time, those whispers stayed largely in the corners of the internet, while Will's mainstream image remained tightly controlled and largely intact. But as public scrutiny grew, especially once the narrative around his marriage began evolving, viewers started interpreting older interviews and appearances differently. Will and Jada often projected a united front, yet some audience members felt the tone in certain moments looked overly practiced, like they were performing stability rather than living it. That perception, fair or not, became part of the broader sense that there was more happening behind closed doors than the public had been told.
You know, Esther Perel is coming to the table. She's going to be at the red table. Would you say she has been instrumental in you and I redefining our relationship?
I would say don't just start filming me without asking me
Oh my goodness.
if you could film me.
Esther, come help us again, please. I'm still dealing with foolishness.
Because she don't just.
Would you say that she helped us heal the hurts that we caused between one another?
My social media presence is my bread and butter, okay? So you can't just use me for social media and not, don't just start I'm standing in my house.
By the time 2016 rolled around, the storyline surrounding Will and Jada took on a new weight after Jada later said that was the year they essentially began living separate lives. Her openness about that period didn't just feed curiosity, it prompted a wave of retroactive reevaluation, as if the public suddenly got permission to look back and connect dots they'd previously ignored. Then came the pandemic era, when Jada used Red Table Talk to speak more directly about her personal life, delivering one of the most viral relationship revelations Hollywood has seen in years. She described what she called an entanglement with singer August Alsina, a single word that instantly exploded into pop culture shorthand and turned into an internet phenomenon almost overnight. What might have been a serious conversation about a complicated chapter instead became one of the most dissected celebrity moments of the decade.
And I were going through a very difficult time.
Yeah.
And we decided...
I was done with your ass.
Yeah, you kicked me to the curb.
I was done with you.
Yeah.
Marriages have that, though. Marriages have that.
Yeah, we broke up.
We decided that we were going to separate for a period of time, and you go figure out how to make yourself happy, and I'll figure out how to make myself happy.
Well, at that particular point in time, it was indefinite.
Yeah, I really felt like we could be over.
We were.
Jada maintained that the relationship happened during a time when she and Will were separated, and she suggested Will knew about it, something he appeared to acknowledge during that same conversation. Still, the clip didn't just go viral because of what was said, it spread because of how it looked. Many viewers felt the exchange had an oddly produced vibe, with carefully chosen language, tense pauses, and body language that people read as more camera-ready than genuinely emotional. The internet latched onto entanglement as a meme, and the public turned secondhand discomfort into a running joke. What often gets missed is the timeline overlap that made the story feel even messier. Jada later identified 2016 as the year their relationship effectively ended, and that same year she became the face of the Oscars So White boycott, putting her at the center of a high-profile industry clash. Fast forward to the 2022 Oscars, and Chris Rock referenced that boycott in a joke that helped set off the now infamous on-stage confrontation. Around that time, rumors were already swirling that Chris Rock had shown interest in Jada in the past amid reports of separation, though those claims were never confirmed. In that context, some commentators argued Will's reaction may have been fueled by more than a single punchline, more like a flashpoint for years of tension, humiliation, and unresolved history that finally boiled over in public. And once that happened, the microscope only got stronger.
To my queens out there that have been cheated on by their men, it's not your fault. Stop making it your fault. To my kings out there that have been cheated on by their women, stop making it your fault. Yes, women cheat too. Now here's the other thing. This is one of the strongest forces in the universe that we have to deal with. This is about self-mastery. It's not even about what's going on in the relationship. This is about self-mastery.
After the Oscars incident, the volume around Will's life didn't just increase, it changed shape. People who had kept quiet for years started speaking in more suggestive tones, adding to an atmosphere where every old rumor suddenly felt like it might be part of the story. Actress Tisha Campbell, who was previously married to Dwayne Martin, publicly implied there were still unrevealed layers to the Will and Dwayne dynamic, hinting that more could eventually come out. She didn't lay out specifics, but in celebrity culture, even a vague hint can pour gasoline on speculation. And the questions didn't stop there. Actor Cher Gray, known for Empire, also became connected to Will in ways some observers later called unusual. What followed wasn't clarity so much as another cycle of internet debate, with people trying to read between the lines without concrete proof exactly the kind of ambiguity that keeps a celebrity narrative churning, even when no definitive conclusions are reached.
Nobody can do anything. It's just like, I'm not normal no more. Being a celebrity sometimes comes with, like, everybody wants to be successful in a celebrity and stuff like that, but it comes with, you know, sometimes, and the allegations is kind of crazy.
Around that same stretch of heightened conversation, Cher opened up more broadly about the entertainment industry, describing it as a dark space that she felt was wearing people down. She didn't single out Will Smith, but her comments fed into a larger cultural mood, one where audiences are increasingly willing to believe that the glossy, polished version of Hollywood is only a fraction of what's happening in private. Individually, these claims and implications are difficult to verify, and many remain unproven. Still, when similar themes start echoing across different voices in different eras, attention tends to intensify, especially in an internet climate where speculation spreads faster than fact-checking. That bigger conversation expanded again with Jaguar Wright, who has repeatedly made explosive claims about alleged power structures in entertainment, describing hidden dynamics and secretive circles that, she says, operate beyond public view.
He talked. He say nothing about Cher. He played his television father.
Right.
He was on set. He saw what Charlie Mack and them were doing. He knew they were taking those young boys to Diddy. They all knew!
Jaguar Wright's statements have been fiercely disputed, and she remains a polarizing figure, but her presence has undeniably added fuel to the ongoing debate about transparency, influence, and who really holds power in Hollywood. Yet, in this unfolding saga, one person has emerged as particularly disruptive to Will Smith's long-managed narrative: Bilal Salaam, sometimes referred to as Bilal. Bilal has publicly said he knew Will from childhood in Philadelphia and later became part of his inner circle as a personal assistant. According to his own telling, that proximity gave him a front-row seat to private aspects of Will's life that the public never saw. And he's positioned himself as someone with information that could reshape how people interpret Will's carefully crafted image. That claim access plus insider status is exactly the kind of framing that can turn a former associate into a major problem in celebrity optics, whether or not the allegations ultimately hold up.
This is unlike him, right? So, I open the door to Dwayne's dressing room, and that's when I see Dwayne and having sex with Will.
Let me process that for a second.
There was a couch, and Will was bent over on the couch, and Dwayne was standing up, killing him. Like, it was murder in there.
Bilal Salaam has since become one of the biggest threats to Will Smith's long-standing reputation, not just socially, but potentially legally as well. In December 2024, he filed a $3 million lawsuit against Jada Pinkett Smith, and he suggested publicly that this legal action is only a fraction of what he claims to know. As he continued giving interviews and appearing in media spaces, the attention followed because Hollywood scandals don't just live in courtrooms anymore, they live in clips, headlines, and the endless scroll. In late 2023, Bilal appeared on Unwind with Tasha K and presented his claims as first-hand observations rather than recycled gossip. He alleged he witnessed behavior involving Will Smith and Dwayne Martin, a longtime figure in Will's circle. While he avoided explicit detail in his public framing, he insisted what he claimed to have seen wasn't a one-time misunderstanding, but something he alleged happened repeatedly. Those statements remain disputed, but they intensified the spotlight on relationships and rumors that had once hovered mostly outside mainstream coverage.
It was the woman that everybody wanted, and Will needed that validation to have that type of woman.
You saw her say that Will Smith had a small dick?
So I am saying to you, if a woman is used to something the size of a baby leg, and you come in with a pinky toe, there's nothing you can do to please her. You can buy her 80 cars, you can get her 80 private jets. If she's itching for that baby leg, she want that baby leg. You can beat a person so much that they fall into submission.
Bilal didn't stop at vague insinuations. He also resurfaced old Hollywood whispers that had circulated quietly for years but rarely made it into direct public accusations. One of his claims referenced what he called the pinky toe thing, a phrase he framed as an internal joke or metaphor allegedly used to embarrass Will and diminish him in comparison to Dwayne. In Bilal's telling, the point wasn't humor, it was humiliation, an attempt to chip away at Will's pride and status. All of this remains rooted in Bilal's personal account, and it's still contested. But regardless of where the facts ultimately land, the impact on Will's image has been real. The conversation has shifted from comeback to cloud, with the sense that the story around him is no longer fully controllable, and it didn't end there. Bilal also emphasized that he isn't the only one raising serious concerns, a point that gained traction when another lawsuit reportedly entered the public record in January 2026, this time from Brian King Joseph, an electric violinist known for making the finals on America's Got Talent. Brian's filing describes being hired in 2024 for Will Smith's tour and then experiencing what he characterizes as deeply troubling behavior. He alleges Will acted in ways he interprets as predatory, claiming he felt he was being gradually groomed and emotionally conditioned for potential exploitation. These are severe allegations, and Brian cites specific language he says was used, phrasing like, "You and I have such a special connection that I don't have with anyone else." In ordinary circumstances, that could read as encouragement, but Brian argues that in the context he described, it mirrors a pattern associated with grooming, where emotional exclusivity becomes a tool that can blur boundaries over time. Brian says the situation escalated in March 2025 during a Las Vegas tour stop. According to his account, his tour bag and keycard went missing and then reappeared later in ways he says didn't make sense, leaving him unsettled. He describes returning to his room and noticing details he claims felt intrusive, marking what he portrays as a turning point. He also alleges finding a handwritten note signed Stone F, a name he claims is an alias connected to Will Smith or someone close to him. The note reportedly read, "Brian, I'll be back no later than 5:30. Just us." Brian says the "just us" phrasing made him uncomfortable, interpreting it as an expectation of private interaction he claims was never agreed upon. He further alleges he found personal items in the room, including wipes, an empty beer bottle, and a bottle of HIV medication labeled with another name, details he describes as alarming in light of the broader allegations in his lawsuit.
Power. People take advantage of it. People know that they can just dangle a carrot in your face. Well, they don't know. They assume that, okay, because I'm Will Smith and because I'm an A-list actor, celebrity, then you are going to drop and do whatever it is that I say, and I can help build you opportunities. And hey, you're a violinist and you're on tour because of me.
Those details remain part of Brian King Joseph's legal filing and haven't been independently verified, but he claims he reacted immediately by notifying hotel security. From there, he says the situation moved quickly, and the lawsuit added a new and more serious layer to the public scrutiny already surrounding Will Smith. Brian alleges that after the hotel incident, he reached out to Will's management team looking for help or clarification, but claims he was dismissed and accused of making the story up. He says he was then removed from the tour, and that the termination caused major damage to his career, finances, and mental health. In his filing, he describes long-term emotional fallout, including struggles with post-traumatic stress as he tries to rebuild. As these allegations gained traction, some people online started revisiting older footage of Will with his son Jaden Smith, viewing moments that once read as quirky or affectionate through a much more skeptical lens. One clip that repeatedly resurfaces is from 2013, when Will and Jaden were promoting After Earth in Thailand. In the footage, Will kisses his then 4-year-old son on the lips, and Jaden appears uncomfortable and pulls away an awkward beat that has since become a flashpoint in ongoing debates.
Are you okay? my God!
Back when it happened, reactions were mixed, with plenty of people brushing it off as an unusual but harmless family moment. More recently, though, the clip has been recirculated with a harsher interpretive frame, with viewers focusing on Jaden's visible discomfort and the room's awkward energy. In the current climate, where audiences are hyper-aware of boundaries and power dynamics, small moments can take on a much bigger meaning than they did at the time. People have also pointed to another televised instance, recalling a similar on-camera interaction on The Ellen DeGeneres Show. At the time, neither moment became a sustained controversy, and they largely passed without major scrutiny. But once a celebrity narrative shifts, the internet has a way of pulling the archive back into the present.
You know I love him, Ellen. I love him.
As those clips resurfaced, some commentators pushed back against the idea that they were simply cultural differences or isolated misunderstandings. With newer allegations circulating, audiences began rewatching older moments with a different kind of suspicion, and what some once interpreted as playful affection started to feel uncomfortable to others, especially when viewed through the lens of personal boundaries. Within that conversation, critics argued the gestures seemed less private and more performative, as though the camera's presence mattered more than the child's comfort. Whether that interpretation is fair is still debated, but it became part of the broader narrative shift. People weren't just reacting to a single clip, they were reassessing a pattern. Around that same era, another detail sparked widespread chatter, reports that Jaden sought legal emancipation at 15. The move, if true and pursued seriously, would have signaled a desire for independence from parental control, and it immediately fed speculation that there were deeper tensions inside the household than the public understood. The online discussion also expanded with additional claims and commentary from various voices, including allegations that young men had left the Smith household distressed during mentorship situations. Statements that continue to circulate more as rumor-driven narrative than as clearly substantiated fact.
They do weird things in their house, and young men have left their house screaming to get away from them in their mentorship. Meek Mills, Bashir Gray, left that house screaming.
In the years that followed, Jaden's public persona became its own ongoing conversation. His fashion risks, abstract posts, and unconventional statements turned into a signature brand of unpredictability, with Will often framing it as bold creativity and fearless self-expression. But some observers read it as something more complicated, suggesting it could reflect the psychological strain of growing up under intense spotlight and expectation. Then Jaden posted a message that many felt shifted the emotional tone around him. He wrote that much of what people called weird was him sincerely thinking he was normal, and that he sometimes leaned into acting strange on purpose so others would assume it was intentional. He ended by admitting he'd been trying to fit in the whole time, and that it wasn't going as planned. For a lot of readers, the message landed less like rebellion and more like a young person quietly revealing confusion and stress beneath the performance. Placed next to other widely discussed moments, the Scientology-linked school story, the reported emancipation attempt, the uncomfortable public clips, and Jaden's own reflections, some people started asking bigger questions about what life inside that family might have felt like away from premieres and red carpets. And the scrutiny didn't stop with family dynamics. Older accounts from outside the household also added texture to the debate, including comedian Paul Rodriguez's recollections from the early 2000s while Will was filming Ally. Rodriguez described the set as difficult and claimed Will seemed to undergo a noticeable personality change, becoming harsher and more aggressive than the public persona suggested. He speculated about factors like physical transformation demands and possible steroid use, even referencing the idea of roid rage, while also alleging tensions tied to alleged racial insults from a real-life figure involved in the production. Those claims, rooted in personal recollection and not independently verified, painted a version of Will that looked far less polished, more volatile, more emotionally charged, and harder to reconcile with the familiar talk show charm. More recently, attention has also turned toward Westbrook Incorporated, the company founded by Will and Jada. Publicly, it's been positioned as a modern creative powerhouse, but anonymous Glassdoor reviews attributed to former employees have described it in far less flattering terms, using words like toxic, egotistical, and controlling, and claiming leadership culture discouraged dissent. Adding to that picture, there was also mention of a quiet settlement involving a female producer connected to one of Westbrook's partner companies, where she alleged she was pushed aside after raising concerns about workplace culture. For years, stories like these often stayed in the industry whispers category, shared privately, rarely proven publicly. But in a Hollywood era where audiences are increasingly suspicious of curated narratives, old rumors don't fade as easily as they used to. Wider scandals elsewhere in the industry have also accelerated that shift, making people more willing to believe that power can operate unchecked behind closed doors, and that celebrity polish can be a mask rather than a truth. That broader context matters when looking at Will's recent attempts to re-enter the cultural conversation at full speed. In early 2025, he returned to music with a new album, but instead of sparking a wave of excitement, the reception leaned critical, with many calling the work out of touch and more trying to stay relevant than genuinely inspired. The album struggled to generate lasting momentum, and the single Pretty Girls, meant to be a centerpiece, drew heavy negative feedback, with some critics framing it as the soundtrack to a midlife identity crisis rather than a triumphant comeback. Even so, Will didn't retreat. Reports and chatter suggested he reached out to major names like Jay-Z and Kendrick Lamar, possibly looking for guidance or a credibility boost, though those conversations were never confirmed. He also leaned into collaborations with big internet personalities such as KSI, XQC, and Brooke Monk, moves that looked, to many observers, like a strategy to tap younger audiences. Instead of feeling organic, the pairings were often criticized as calculated, and the KSI collaboration in particular became a lightning rod for people who said it came off more like corporate marketing than authentic creativity. That impression deepened in June 2025 when Will appeared at King's Cross Station in London, performing classic Fresh Prince tracks for commuters in an unannounced moment seemingly designed to trigger nostalgia. But footage circulated showing a crowd that seemed more confused than captivated, and many online described the scene as awkwardly disconnected from the comeback story it appeared to be aiming for. Later, talk also suggested significant resources were used to boost his visibility through social media promotion, a modern tactic that can amplify reach but can't always buy back authenticity once public trust is cracked. And that's the tension at the heart of Will Smith's current chapter. For decades, he was one of the best in the business at being the version of himself the public wanted. Charismatic, approachable, endlessly watchable. Now, with lawsuits, resurfaced moments, and intensifying skepticism colliding in real time, the question isn't just whether he can stage a comeback, it's whether the audience still believes in the story.